So, opioids, so we all have receptors in our brain that affect us. Opioids hit the mu and kappa receptors, which you'll learn about in, like, if you go biochemistry, and in pharmacy school we take medicinal chemistry, and it talks about all the different receptors that drugs have. Why it's becoming such a problem as of late is, I think, because we dealt with it. I think it's always been a problem, but we had so few restrictions on how prescriptions could be provided to patients and how doctors could prescribe. So now, in order to kind of stop the problem, a lot of states, and Nebraska is kind of one of a slower state and not so progressive, but we do have the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, PDMP it's called. So now, so you can pay for your prescriptions either via your prescription, your insurance, which most people have, but some people also don't have insurance, so we can pay for it just cash. So they're paying for the whole drug, just how much it's going to cost, a cash amount. They're not having an insurance cover a copay, if you guys are familiar with that. So with this Prescription Drug Monitoring Act, we are now able to see what a patient has had filled at multiple pharmacies, so we can see that, like, if they're paying cash or if it's going through insurance, we can see what they've gotten filled in the last, does it go 18 months, 2 years?
I think so,
Something like that. You can search, you can narrow your search to 6 months, a year. So Nebraska finally got this in January. So now, as retail pharmacies, we can, when we put in a prescription for a patient, we can see, like, what they've all had filled. Because a lot of people also doctor shop too, so that they can get their prescriptions. Oxycodone, which I think maybe some of you have heard about, or Norco, which is hydrocodone acetaminophen. All of those have a real quick onset of action, and then they make you feel good, like they take away the pain, and they also, though, develop a quick tolerance. So in order to get that euphoria or pain relief, you start taking more relatively quickly. Like, you can become addicted to oxycodone within 2 days of taking it, like for post-op from a procedure. HBO, I don't know if you guys have it, but they did a really good documentary last May of 2017, and it was all about the opioid epidemic, and it said this drug may kill you, and kind of how the doctors prescribe these medications for post-op pain, and you know, the patient can take it for 2 days, and then they kind of just get dependent on it, and they want that feeling, and then in order to get that feeling, they have to keep increasing their dose, and so then a lot of times the doctors only write for the one-time fill. You can't write for refills on these drugs because they're called a controlled 2 substance. So then that patient, that when they become addicted, they have to find other ways of getting more of that medication, so either by doctor shopping or going on the streets and finding it, which the unfortunate thing is it's relatively inexpensive because all of these medications are, so we have brand and generic medications. So when a drug comes out, it's the brand name. So the drug company patents that medication, and it's only being able to be made by that one drug company. And so then after so many years, then we can make generic formulations of that same drug, and so that's when it becomes cheaper. But all of these pain medications, opioids, are generic and are cheap, and it relatively takes no time at all to become addicted. So the one way that we're trying to get in front of this is by the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, the PDMP, and then also in hospitals we are trying to develop a pain stewardship program, so that doctors don't necessarily prescribe those strong opioids for pain, because we need to see, like, what is the goal for this patient? Like, what is their baseline? Is it to be pain-free, or are they never really going to be pain-free and get back to the limited mobility that they had? So there are other medications that we can use for pain, ibuprofen, Tylenol. Then there's other medications like gabapentin, which is a medication that we use for seizures. But if we try the smaller medications first, the not so powerful, then hopefully we will decrease the amount of opioid dependence. Now, sometimes you can't avoid it because a patient had a major operation and they are going to have pain, and if they're having pain, they're not going to be able to sleep. They're going to have a higher respiratory rate. They're just going to be completely uncomfortable. But we have to figure out a way to slowly wean them off and get them so that they're not dependent on that stronger medication.
Because the pain can inhibit the healing process
Right.
of the body too, so it's a balance that...
Yes.
So is the opioid epidemic, like, is it prescription or is it heroin?
Well, it starts out prescription, but then they become tolerant to the dose that they've been taking, or they keep going up, and so then they have to find a stronger drug to get that euphoria, so then that would lead to heroin use. Does that make sense? Because they're trying to match that high that they're getting the day before, and they can't get it from oxycodone anymore, so then let's try something else, because they have that addictive receptor firing off now, and they need something to fill that euphoria, or to take away the pain, or to take away whatever led them to that trying to numb the pain. Either, abuse. There's, many reasons why people turn to drugs to not feel the pain, not just actually physical pain. But HBO had a really good documentary. It was in May of 2017, and then I don't know if any of you guys watch Intervention on, I think it's on A&E, but it was off for a while, and now they're doing a 6-part series on the opioid triangle in Atlanta suburbs as well, and it shows not just people of low economic status. It shows a cop who his wife was prescribed Percocet, which is oxycodone acetaminophen.
Super common after
Yeah,
having
super,
a
like,
baby to
yeah.
be prescribed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, after you have a baby, you can get sent home with Percocet or Norco. I mean, any minor surgery, ACL, MCL, any athletic injuries that you've had, you can get these medications. So his wife had that for a post-op surgery, and she got addicted. And so it shows how any economic status can get addicted. So that would be really interesting, I think, for you guys to watch. It's kind of hard to watch because, I don't know, I've had 2 babies, and I've never actually used Percocet or anything for pain. I think the strongest thing I've taken is ibuprofen, 800 milligrams. So I don't know what it would do, how I would feel. But, so I can't give an example of how you feel after these medications, but it's very, very easily to get addicted because you don't want to feel that pain, or you want to feel that euphoria that you get from it.
What other questions do you have? We each had come up with 2, so here's our chance. We have experts in the room.
Since a lot of these prescription drugs are so easily addictive, are the hospitals doing anything to help patients, or are we just they're prescribing it, and then if they're addicted, they're on their own? Right.
So we're trying. So hospitals are mandated by JCO, which is Joint Commission Accrediting, and so they create all these standards. And so one of the standards that we have to have is a pain stewardship committee, where we kind of help dictate the practice of our physicians to not just maybe go right to that Percocet or Norco or Oxycontin or oxycodone, which I'm sure you've heard of, to kind of have more stringent guidelines so that we can hopefully alleviate some of these addictive prescriptions. And then, but a lot of times, like I said, you need to have the patient on that medication. These drugs also have reversal agents, like if you were to overdose, and we are trying to make those more readily available to the community as well. So I don't know if you've ever heard of a Narcan kit. So a lot of retail pharmacies now are selling those for.
Well, and I think they're there's a movement to have schools have the heart
defibrillators
to
mm-hmm.
have something like that too. They're
yep.
Normal people should carry them around. This is how common it would be. That's hard to believe in Nebraska, but I think you know.
Yeah, no, it's so, at Fremont Health, we just opened, it'll be 2 years or 3 years. We opened a lockdown psych unit for adults and geriatrics. We're licensed, I think, for like 26 patients. And I would say a majority of them have psychiatric issues due to opioid or meth dependency, but they're using that because they don't have the correct medications to help with their bipolar or their schizophrenia. They're using the meth or the opioids to stop the voices.
Self-medicate.
Mm-hmm.
So would medical marijuana be a good substitute
For what?
for, I don't know, opioids, whatever, depending on the patient?
So that's debatable, like who you talk to. I mean, medical marijuana does help ease some cancer pain or like glaucoma, but it's still an addictive substance. So you're just going to be more prone to be addicted to another substance. Like we can all be addicted. You can be addicted to food. You can be addicted to that exercise high, like marathoners get addicted to that high they feel when they run, so many miles. There's just so many different things that you can become addicted to. So once you become addicted to that one thing, it's easier to get addicted to a new substance.
All right, thank you so much. Let's give the hand.